When Cyclone Gabrielle unleashed her fury on the North Island in 2023, 11 people died. Among them was 2-year-old Ivy Collins. Her parents, Ella and Jack, are still grappling with what life looks like without their little girl.
And yeah, we lost our daughter. And within that, we lost our future. Everything we had imagined, not just for ourselves, but for our children, is gone. And you kind of have to rebuild with like a whole new set of bricks, and the puzzle doesn't fully make sense.
There she is! Oh, hi! Shut the door? Okay, sorry. Everything.
Is it you?
A cheeky, fun, gorgeous child gone forever.
Look at you though. Are you beautiful or are you a pest?
I'm beautiful.
Yes, you are.
She's one of 9 people who died in Hawke's Bay during the cyclone, and her family fear that others are also at risk, as they say authorities are no better prepared for future floods.
I guess my question to civil defence, to local government, to anyone would be how many of New Zealand's children need to die traumatically for there to be some tangible change?
Exactly.
Before the cyclone, the Collins lived in Eskdale on North Shore Road.
That's he got a 6-blade knife. Got it from Santa Claus for Christmas.
This is me!
Ivy and her sister Imogen loved playing on the nearby beach. The girls did everything together, from feeding the chooks to dancing, napping in matching PJs, picnicking in the backyard and playing in the paddling pool. A happy family living in their own little bit of paradise.
We worked really hard to get where we were.
We really did. We worked really, really hard to get where we were, and it's all gone.
For people that haven't been through this, what have the 2 years been like for you guys?
At least the first 12 months just in survival mode. It's one foot after the other.
It's the last thing we think of before we go to bed, and it's the first thing we think of when we wake up.
In the early hours of February 14th, 2023, the Esk River burst its banks, flooding the entire valley. The Collins were among hundreds of Hawke's Bay residents, waking up in the middle of a nightmare they could not escape, fighting for their lives because authorities had failed to evacuate them or even alert them to the risk.
Instead of sitting there watching the monitoring station getting washed away, maybe we could have some initiative and send out a pilot vehicle perhaps, lights and sirens, hey, you need to clear out. What's the worst that's going to come of an evacuation?
To my knowledge, there was 72 people on that email chain leading up to the flood.
And not a single one of them hit the red button.
Not a single one, and that includes Met Service, it includes Civil Defence, it includes local council, and not a single one of them hit the big red button. And
I think it'd be easier to do something on the night than to cover it up later on.
Since Cyclone Gabrielle hit, there have been multiple inquiries into the actions of authorities before and during the event. All of those investigations have found failures in our emergency management system, and the various reports made well over 100 different recommendations, including the creation of an early warning system for flooding. Yet none of those people who survived say anything has changed, and they worry that no one is any safer today than they were 2 years ago.
it's just disappointing that it's 2 years on and none of it's actually been put into practice, none of it's been actioned.
They're shaping up to make the same mistake as last time.
The emotions come in waves, and yes, there's frustration and yes, there's anger, but what needs to topple all of that is hope, but action. I mean, hope's hopeless without someone in the right office doing the right things to make sure that the next time this happens, and it will happen again, it's happened before, that there will be something in place to stop that loss of life.
And you guys, I mean, you don't want to be sitting here talking to the media yet again about this. Yeah.
We love you, Alexa, but no.
Yeah. So why? Why are you? What are you hoping people will hear from this?
If there's any part of what's happened to us that can push the right people in the right direction so that there can be some action, something that happens, something real, not just reviews, not just recommendations, but something very real that can make it safer for the next people.
It's why Gareth Jones is speaking out too. His friend Suzanne Cashopoli also drowned in the cyclone.
You know, what would civil defence do differently to raise that alarm, to get people to safe areas. And, you know, I don't know if anything's changed.
What's that feel like, having been through such a traumatic, awful experience, losing your friend, and then feeling like nothing's changed in the 2 years since?
It's annoying. You know, I keep saying it makes me angry. It makes my blood boil. You know, we're not after heads on chopping blocks for what happened at Cyclone Gabrielle. You know, apology would have been really nice for somebody to say, yes, we got it wrong, but we're going to make sure this doesn't happen again. You know, nobody's after compensation or anything. They just want to make sure that nobody else goes through what they went through. Sorry. Because that's the only thing that gets me emotional now, is the thought that there could be somebody else in exactly the same position that goes through exactly the same. And I'd hate for anybody to go through what, not just myself, but other victims went through in that flood.
Where the house once was is now a big paddock. This is what's left of the home that Gareth and Suzanne were looking after in Esk Valley during the cyclone.
Nothing recognisable other than the deck.
As the floodwaters kept rising, they climbed into the ceiling. But the house was hit by a shipping container, tearing the roof in two and throwing them into the air as they clutched the rafters.
We knew when we were going to hit the water, this is it, we're going to die. We just didn't know at what point we were going to die.
Gareth was pulled underwater and forced to let go of Suzanne. He survived, but she didn't.
I'm doing this for the memory of my friend, is that nobody like her loses her life for something so preventable.
What have those 2 years been like since then?
Pretty much hell on earth. Pretty much hell on earth. I've tried to be as resilient as I possibly can. You know, I went through a period when I was in hospital, going through self-loathing, survivor guilt, all these different emotions going through my my head, and you know, I had to start focusing on gratitude. What am I grateful for? You know, and I'm grateful that I'm actually still here. You know, that I've lived to tell the story.
I mean, a year ago we were having this conversation about how you were worried that nothing had changed, and here we are a year later, 2 years on from Cyclone Gabrielle. What's it like now?
Nothing's changed. It's the same. It's infuriating. Come on, pull your bloody finger out. How hard is it?
But Hawke's Bay Civil Defence told RNZ that while an automatic early warning system triggered by high river levels doesn't exist yet, it is a tool that they're keen on.
There's no automatic trigger levels and automatic warning. So it relies on a trigger level being reached, information being provided to staff to make an assessment and then to push out a warning.
Will there be an automatic system in future?
That's a question probably that you need to provide to NEMA, because they actually own that system, and it's obviously complicated talking about a national system across the whole of New Zealand and all the councils. Ideally, we will have a system though regionally where people will be able to receive trigger level notifications and then make their own decisions about what they do.
When would that system be in place?
Yeah, that's a question probably for the regional council.
The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, told RNZ it is preparing a roadmap proposal for Cabinet to consider, but can't confirm whether a more comprehensive early warning system is part of it. However, there is a separate project underway.
There is a national piece of work going on between emergency management and councils to actually predefine trigger levels ahead of time. So when it gets to that, we know how much time we need for evacuation, and then they can alert us earlier.
When will that work be done?
That's going to be worked over the next sort of 12, 18 months.
But that at that point will be 3-4 years on from Cyclone Gabrielle. Is that quick enough?
Well, we'd all like to be faster in this. The key thing we're doing in the meantime is we've had a lot of conversations with the regional council, with our partner agencies. I recently issued a set of protocols to all our partner agencies, setting my expectations about the information that I want to know and when I want to know it and how I want to know it.
But there's been no apology. Will Civil Defence ever apologise for those mistakes made 2 years ago?
Look, I can't apologise for the stuff. I wasn't here, unfortunately, at the time. I mean, I certainly have sympathy for what had happened, and it's unfortunate that the way things came out and obviously the tragic loss of life. I think what you're seeing is that the system across the country, and certainly within this region, are taking steps to remedy future events and to ensure that we are better in the future.
One of those steps is the appointment of a transformation manager at Civil Defence to oversee an overhaul of the region's emergency management.
The 70-odd recommendations from Mike Bush and Jim Manafry made a similar amount. That sort of is my scope, and it's anything and everything to do with civil defence, whether it be people or systems or assets or training.
The region's 5 councils have recently voted to adopt a transformation strategy which will result in a system of about 1,000 trained staff and volunteers.
I think we're building from the ground up, community hubs, volunteerism, volunteer groups, that's in the thousands. Each council, each community, each village, each marae, each hapu are going to have a crew of people that care about emergency management.
Because while there is an alert system in place, it's reliant on people making the right decisions.
The kicker, right? It's not that we don't have it, it's that it needs to be better than what we've currently got.
Is that the same alert system that was in place or was meant to be in place during Cyclone Gabrielle?
Yeah, it is, and that alert system's got lots of layers to it, and in each layer there's a person. And so I think that's the key component of the system that we can influence at a regional level. There's national components, there's regional components, there's local components. And every piece of it, though, there's a person making a decision, making a choice, making an assessment, agonising over whether it's the right time to do something, whether it's the right decision to make. And we're going to focus on the people bit through training and exercising and education and rehearsals. And those 1% changes are going to make the difference.
Are these changes being put in place quickly enough, given that we know that these kind of events can happen fairly frequently?
I'd love to do it quicker.
So what's stopping you? Is it money? Is that in resource? Is that what's stopping you from moving quicker?
I can't turn a really good system into a great system overnight. You could throw me hundreds of thousands of dollars and more people and more tools, and we would still need time to be awesome. So there's an element of resourcing. Yep, absolutely.
What promises can you make to these communities that they will be safer next time there's a disaster?
Look, what I can promise is that we'll do everything that we can to ensure that we give people enough notifications as we can do, and that we allocate as many resources as possible.
But it's hard to reassure those who've lost loved ones.
So if we got another flood, another Cyclone Gabrielle tomorrow, are we any better placed than we were 2 years ago?
No, not really.
Yeah.
You know, there's no stop bank, there's no heavy machinery, there's no cameras, there's who's told us what's been implemented. There's no one showing face around here.
Talk is cheap. There's talks of mitigation, and yes, okay, you can put mitigation in place to protect an area, but again, it goes back to those early warning systems and people actually checking it properly and not being afraid to hit the big red button. I would much rather have been totally inconvenienced by an unnecessary evacuation.
Because nothing will bring their girl back.
I think the time for talking is over, and we need to start implementing some drastic changes now.
Yeah. Tangible changes. Some action.
The least we can do at the moment is speak up, and it's up to the powers that be if they listen or not. Balls in their court.
Balls in their court.